gonna go. If Mike gives me a thumbs up, I'm gonna fly. All right, awesome. So I guess it'd be great if we could have the normal back and forth between everybody. Oh boy, this makes me look balder than I even am. This big bright light behind me. Um, and it's getting bad already. You know, when you start to get the little, it's like a peninsula and then it starts to turn into an island. And it's like global warming. It's really sad. Anyway,
No,
so
I don't know about that.
yeah, I'm like an island in the South Pacific. So, it'd be nice if we could have the back and forth, but I'll just try to, write down your questions or whatever, and we'll save it. And you can ask me anything at the end. I'm not going to actually start with the phone because so many people have a phone. This is an old phone and it works just as well. Um, so I'm going to talk about two things today. One is basic just composition, how you compose the image, some camera stuff. And then I'm going to talk about lighting and, because those are kind of two separate things. It's like kind of how you compose your image and then how you bring in lights to light your image, like I'm doing poorly right now. So if you're using a phone, you can get, the good news for all of you guys is you can get amazing photos from furniture photos from your phone, which is great. You don't have to do this and get one of these. I have one of these because obviously it's part of how I'm going to put my last kid through college and how I've made my living. But you don't have to have that. You can use your phone. The key thing on your phone is, to start with, is put it in camera mode, is the phone is really wide angle. I don't know if you can kind of see that, but it's really wide angle. So the first thing you want to do is zoom in as far as you can. Just trying to see what I'm seeing. It doesn't matter really. Let's say that was a piece of furniture. You want to zoom in as far as you can on your phone because that gets rid of that super wide angle. What wide angle does is it gives it an unrealistic, what's the word for it, aspect to your photos. It sort of foreshortens the foreground and it makes everything look a little bit weird, which is why I don't like to FaceTime with my kids, because my big fat face looks even fatter. So, but young people look great because none of this stuff has happened to them yet. Anyway, a little bit of comedy, but so the first thing you want to do is zoom way in, but as you can, on your image, and then move the camera where you need to get the right framing, like move it away, move it closer. The problem at that point is that your hands are a little bit shaky, and the more zoomed in you are, the more it exaggerates that shakiness. Everybody with me? So you can just nod or drool or something. So, so to overcome that, you want to get one of these, which literally you can get for 20 or 30 bucks on Amazon. It's just a little tripod with bendy legs, and your camera fits in the top of it. It's great. You can sit it on any surface. Just drag a table into where you're shooting your furniture, and sit this on a surface. And you can even put your camera on a delay. So even same thing with your fancy camera. So the very act of you pushing the button doesn't shake the camera, right? So every phone at the top of your photo function has a little delay thingy at the top. It's that little thing that looks like a timer right there. Oh, I can't push it. Yeah, right there. And then you get a little bit of like a 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 3 seconds. It's not focusing, but everyone has that. So you can put it on a 3-second delay, and then the very act of you pushing it, it's the same with your fancy camera. You can put that on a 2 to 10 second delay as well. So you pushing the button doesn't vibrate the shot. You know what I mean? So those are a couple simple things you should do with your phone to get better images right off the bat.
Hey, Asa.
Yeah.
I had a quick question. Sorry, I don't know how to do the raise your hand feature, so I just.
Oh yeah, just dive in. In fact, you guys can unmute if you can be quiet enough and just throw in questions. Mike, is that okay if they
Well,
unmute?
and I said that raise your hand formally if you know how to, or just jump in. Just unmuting. I mean, muting, then we don't have any background noise.
Okay,
but then
cool.
you
So
unmute when they're ready to ask.
Yeah, I think I have background noise, so I'll stay muted, but I didn't find the button to raise my hand.
That's
I had a
okay.
quick question on your, that comment about zooming in. I did notice that aspect thing before. I guess, is there any difference between zooming and taking the picture, and then between that or not zooming, taking the picture and then cropping it later?
absolutely, huge difference.
Okay, so you should
Because
zoom.
zooming is changing the aspect of the actual shot. You know, I believe. I think, you know, I could be wrong on an iPhone. It could be, the truth is on an iPhone, you could be just zooming into the background, and so it cancels out a little bit of that, you know, this thing that's happening to the aspect.
I couldn't
So
tell.
you're looking so
yeah.
far into the back of the shot that it cancels it out. I don't know, but I do know that it helps.
Okay,
So
cool.
I would do it.
Good to know.
I also don't know if on a phone, if it's still seeing the whole entire image and you're just getting a smaller amount of pixels when you zoom, or whether or not it's focusing your pixels on that smaller image area. I would hope that, these are really good questions, Mike, but I would hope that it's now focusing its pixel array on that smaller area, and you're going to get better resolution than if you had a big image and then cropped it afterward. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that makes sense.
In any case, there's not much you can do about any of that. All I know is that zooming in is a good idea and it works.
Okay,
So,
perfect. Thanks.
you know, it's never going to be as good as this, but phones are remarkably good. You know, remember when we used to talk about my camera is blah, 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 megapixel and stuff. Your phone is almost as good as, it's probably as good as the generation of camera that I have in terms of the amount of pixels it's capturing, you know. In any case, no, that's a good question. So that's what you do with your phone. With your, let me talk a little bit about image composition. Generally speaking, on a piece of furniture, you see that desk behind me? There's kind of a weird desk standing up behind me. You want to be a little bit higher than that, looking down at sort of what we call a 3/4 view. Unless you're looking to make a real specific graphic effect about the symmetry of your piece of furniture, you really want to be off to the side and above it a little bit. So like, yeah, if this book was a table, instead of shooting it like that, right, tabletop, you'd want to come over here and come down a little bit, you know? So now there's a little bit more motion and movement, and it just looks nicer. You get lines going up in different directions. And yeah, the other thing is I'm gonna talk about, I'm gonna come back to the fancy camera later. I'm gonna stick with the phone vibe for now. So another thing you wanna do on any cubic thing like this, any sort of solid piece, is you wanna light each surface slightly differently. In other words, if you had a light coming at this at 45 degrees, exactly 45 degrees, it would light this surface and that surface exactly the same, and they would disappear. The junction between those surfaces disappears. So the idea between lighting this, this, and this slightly differently is that you can see all three surfaces and the junctions between them. Well, this will make more sense in a minute when I start talking about placing lights. So, you know, let's talk about lights for a quick sec. So you can really just, you know, I don't know if you guys, is anyone on Instagram? You can kind of just put up your hands. Yeah. So folks that are on Instagram, if you go to Mike Pekovich's, I'm sure you all follow him already. If you follow Mike Pekovich on Instagram, he really just goes by a window, and I'm going to even walk over there. But he just uses the beautiful light coming out of the window, like this beautiful wash of natural light, and he doesn't really even worry about shadows. He just uses that wash of natural light to be his primary light. So while we're on the, and by the way, unmute and slow me down at any time. I'm going to give you the short version of lighting. And once you have this, you're going to see television, movies, everything a little differently. Everyone who's lighting anything, whether it's photos, movies, TV, video, or whatever, is using the same main principles. And that's a main light and a fill light. It's the same almost regardless. So I'm going to turn a light on right here. This is just a cheap light that I'm going to tell you about in a sec. And you see what happens is, because it's to the side of me, it's not perfect, but you're going to get the general idea that if this room was dark, right, it shouldn't be this blown out. I can't really control the intensity. Actually, I can. Let me move it away a little bit. So that's better. Yeah. So I have to suck in my gut too. So what happens here is, this should be a little bit more in front of me. Hold on. So kind of, you'll see that kind of already I look better, like high, as good as, you know, this can actually look. But there's limitations with, you know, if your furniture is ugly, I can't really help you. But anyway, I'm just kidding around. So this light is high, a little bit in front of me and to the side. That's my main light. And it's the same with your furniture. Can you guys all still hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So it's the same with your furniture. That's your main. Now you can picture that if there was nothing else on in this room, this would all be black, right? If it wasn't daytime, if you're shooting in a back room or whatever, this would all be black. So it needs to be filled. So lighting is as simple as, is as simple as you create shadows. By the way, because the light is to my side, it's creating texture. You can see the wrinkles on my shirt. You can see the contours of my face because the light is to the side and a little bit in front. That's critical. This is your main light. Furniture, whatever, it's high and to the side. If you put it down too low, you end up getting that haunted house lighting a little bit, you know. Light generally tends to come from slightly above, so you want your main light to be slightly above as well. So there's that. Now picture this side is all completely black. So what the fill light does is it fills some of those shadows. So that's the key. You have a main light, and then you have something filling some of those shadows. Where you put that secondary light could be the light in the room, which is what's happening right now. I have a main light. I do this a lot, like when I'm on site and I actually shoot with strobe lights, which is a whole thing we're not going to go into. It's more powerful. I'm going to talk about this kind of light. You can buy a set of these kind of lights for about 60, 70 bucks. It's amazing on Amazon. Talk about it in a sec. But I first want to just give you the general concept of lighting. So you've got your main light. You could use the ambient light in the room as your fill. That's working pretty well right now. So, but light coming from outside has to be diffuse light. You can't use direct sunlight. So even if you're shooting yourself, like to make yourself look good or whatever, you always want to be an indirect light, like by the window, but not in direct light. Outdoors, but in the shade, so you're getting diffuse light, not direct light. Direct black and white. Did you ever try to shoot photos at the beach and everyone's got black circles under their eyebrows and, you know, it just doesn't work. Things are either completely blown out or they're completely dark. You want this kind of in-between light, you know? All right, so that's the concept. You have a main light and you have a fill light. That could either be another one of these artificial lights or it could just be the ambient light in the room, depending on how you set it up. The great thing about digital cameras is that you can play with it just like I'm doing right now. You can play with it until you like it. And you can see immediately on your screen what you're getting. Years ago, we used to shoot on film and we used to use a light meter to kind of get a general sense, but we had no real idea until we got the film back. So we used to do something called bracketing, which was shoot with the lights in all different positions and intensities to try to get something good, you know. Now you can just look on your camera and see. So you have an incredible advantage. Let's pause for a quick sec for questions. Does anyone have questions about anything I said so far? It was a lot.
I do, Asa. Yeah, you gave us the kind of the three planes, the relationship of that main light to your subject.
Yeah.
Your fill light, are there any bad angles for the fill light or any better angles for the fill light?
This is a really good question. So let's bring the book back here or whatever. Let me find a larger, I should have been more prepared and had a larger object. In any case, depending on where this light is, I'm gonna find something. Here, hold on. This is the little house that my cat lives in. So depending on where that light is, you know, if it's really high and your piece of furniture is low, your brightest surface will probably be the top. Then the second brightest will be the side. In this case, because I have that light too low for where I'm holding this is brighter and this is a little less bright. But you see how the front is the darkest? Everyone see that? So where you place this main light in relation to these three surfaces, the goal is to make one of them brighter, one less bright, and one less bright again. So that's a really good question, Mike. So in this case, I would want the top generally to be the brightest, usually for any kind of a table or something. Top's usually the brightest, but play with it. There are no hard and fast rules. Different tables have different negative spaces, different cabinets, different pieces. You make chairs are challenging, you know? So you have to move these lights around. So that's another really important thing is play with the tools that you have. Play with the angle you're shooting at, play with the position of the lights. With a digital camera, there's nothing stopping you from playing with it until it feels good. Sometimes I drop the main light way down and I have the fill light high, but generally I have the fill light kind of like, I'm gonna draw a little picture on paper. Your general lighting setup is, you know, you have your object and then your lights are kind of in front and off to the side like that. So it's basically, you're just coming in from the sides diagonally, but that's just the starting point. You know, move around, move things around until you like how it looks. I want to talk about this light really quick. You guys can write this down or you can Google it right now while you're on go on Amazon. This light, I'm gonna take it apart, hold on. This light is by a company called Limo Studio. Everybody see that? Backwards on my screen, but hopefully it's right on yours. It's by Limo Studio, and it's a really cheap place to get lights. What this thing is on the front is a diffuser, and it just makes that direct light bulb inside diffuse. What's inside, what's funny about these lights is what's inside is just a big compact fluorescent bulb. So it's a little hot, so not too bad. I'll be fine in a few days. Also, there's a silver. You can see there's silver in there that reflects the light outward. It's just a big, huge. Hey, I just had a good idea. No, this would be good for that. It's just a big, giant, compact fluorescent bulb, like huge. And it's the cool thing about this, and this is something when you buy lights. It's set at daylight temperature. So when you combine this light with the light, let's say ambient light in the room, they're not going to be two different colors of light. That's another important thing. If you just try to use fluorescent lights as your ambient light, and then you have that main light coming down. So let's say this is your main light, right? And you're trying to use fluorescent in your shop as the fill. A lot of times that stuff is greenish and it makes the shot look weird. So you have to kind of know the temperature of your lights. If you want to use light in your shop together with a light like this is daylight, you can get daylight fluorescent bulbs for your shop. You can just look at the temperature on there and look up, you can Google this, look up daylight light temperature. I forget what it is. It's something Celsius, I can't think of it. But anyway, Limo Studio, you get two of these lights with the big diffuser. You get two stands, and you get the bulbs that go in them for, I think if you go on Amazon, I think it's definitely under $100. It's shockingly cheap. And for the downside of those lights is you can't dial the intensity. On a better light, you can dial the intensity. On these lights, you want it less intense, you have to move it farther away. Everybody with me so far? It's really just a down and dirty way to do lighting. But for what you're doing, it's probably put that together with your phone, zoom in, think about main and fill, move that fill light all around, and you're gonna be getting way better photos than you're getting right now. You get a set of 2 of those lights in a kit. So you'll have your main and your fill right there, and then you just start playing with it. That's the big
You
picture.
can also,
We could pause for questions, and then I can talk a little bit about how some of these principles apply to a fancier camera.
you could also use a reflecting surface,
Yes,
especially if it's a smaller object.
absolutely. You can add a third light you can buy these round flexible reflectors, or sometimes I just use a piece of melamine.
Something like a piece of foam board.
Yes, I have a pile of that stuff, and you just sit it against another something, and you're basically bouncing light from your main light off this piece of foam board onto the other side of your furniture. So it can be almost like you have a third or fourth light. You know, certain pieces of furniture, you get your main light, you put your fill light down low to do the legs or whatever else you want to see, and then you're like, yeah, but there's this other dark area that, you know, yeah, you can use, people use reflectors. I carry a flexible one, you know, that folds up like a bandsaw blade. It's in my kit and it goes with me on the road. So great point, Phil, yeah. Any other questions about what we talked about so far?
This is the scale. I don't know if you can see that.
Let me go to Mark. Hold on, Mark, you're hidden. Oh,
Daylight, it's 5,000 K
5,000. There you go.
versus bright white is 3,000.
Yeah.
And then soft white, like a household one's like 2,700.
Yeah, and it makes a big difference in the color of the light. So it's really, you know, when you want to start getting good at taking photos, you're controlling the light. You're not just using a whole bunch of lights that's sitting overhead. You're putting light where you want to use light. And this, when they do films, it's very similar. They'll start watching movies and TV. You'll see a main light and then you'll kind of see a fill or something filling the shadows. And if they're trying to do like a noir movie or something, they won't fill the shadows hardly at all. And they'll leave it very black and white. Or, you know, there's all different ways to approach this. But, you know, the only thing I would add is on your furniture, a lot of times there's an undercarriage that you really want to show off. You do really beautiful things down there. You know, just like people, sometimes all right, I'm not going to get into that, but I want to, but I'm not. The undercarriage of your furniture is sometimes really has a lot of beautiful detail and inlay and curves and stuff, and you want to show that off. So a lot of times I'll use my fill to not only fill the shadows, but to also highlight things down lower on the piece. The other thing you can do for drama is pull the main light around the back. Make a note to yourself. Pull the main light a little bit farther around the back of the piece, and it can add a lot of texture and drama to the piece. So those are all different things. Yeah, and so questions, and then I'll move on real quick to a couple pointers about this.
I have a question on background.
Yeah.
For example, like if you wanted to photograph that desk back there right now, it's not on a very good background because of all the clutter. And I'm just wondering how you, what are the criteria you use?
So 2 things I generally do. I either put it in a fake room setting or I put it on a seamless. So a seamless is that big paper on a roll and you can roll it down like that and you put your furniture on it. You need to put a long post through it and then a couple stands and hold it way up in the air, high behind anyone, where anyone can see it. And then the front rolls down and it kind of curves gently right under the piece of furniture, and it ends up looking just kind of neutral. That's what they call a seamless, because it's one piece of paper just rolling right forward underneath your furniture. And you can buy those online as well if you really want to do that. The other thing is just find a place in your house, like with a nice wall, neutral wall, a piece of baseboard and maybe a hardwood floor or something, and just put the piece of furniture there. You know, I have bread on my hand because I'm making bread right now, and I'm just mostly trying to brag about making my own bread, but I'm scraping dough off my hand. So
you try to find, excuse me, do you try to find a background that's a complementary color to the object? I mean, like if you look at that desk back there, your wall is sort of a complementary color. So as a color for the background, it really makes the color of the wood pop out.
I like neutral because neutral always works. So I like more of a neutral wall with a neutral baseboard and just a hardwood floor or something, or in a light gray backdrop. It just works with so many different kinds of wood. The problem with colored backgrounds is you get a reflection off the background onto the wood. So that could be a problem. Sometimes, by the way, here's another trick you can write down. If you do get a seamless backdrop, you're gonna notice sometimes the top of the piece of furniture is blowing out. It's like a big reflection. And the way to deal with that is on your backdrop, hang something black down, all the way down to just above the frame of what the camera is seeing. And when the light bounces up to that, it'll kill that glare. If you know what I mean, the light from your camera, the viewing angle of your camera bouncing off the tabletop will go down and then up into that black thing that's hanging over. People use velvet or a black sheet or a dark brown sheet or something. Hang that over the back of your backdrop, and it stops just out of reach of the top of the frame, you know what I mean? But the camera bounce is seeing it, and it kills the reflection on the tabletop. It's amazing. And then all of a sudden you see the wood. So when you want to see into the wood that you've worked so hard on, sometimes you need to bring something dark down on the top of your backdrop, all the way down to just the top of the frame, you know what I mean? So the camera's viewfinder won't see it, but the bounce will catch it. Do you know what I mean? Does that make sense, everybody? Yeah, so those are all good questions. I know we don't have a ton of time, but I can give you a couple tips on DSLRs, and then I'll tap out. That sound okay?
Yeah. Sounds good. Do you have another question on seamless before we move on? Is there a color difference? If I go online, I'm colorblind, so I'm not going to make a good judgment on this. Are all seamless sheets the same color?
No, they're all different. There's all different colors. But like I said, even if you're colorblind, you can see grayscale, right?
Yeah,
so
right.
You can see light gray. Get light gray and you'll never be sorry.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. The funny thing about all these things, it's a little like furniture making, is the more deeply you know it, kind of the simpler it gets. You know, you can go off in the weeds and know 55 ways to do anything, but there's some very simple principles that will get you 90% of the way there. You know, you can kill yourself trying to do the last 10%, but the things I'm explaining today will get you 90% of the way to, you know, they'll get you way down the road, farther than you really even need to go. All right, so I'm gonna talk about these cameras. The principles aren't that different. I might even be able to show you in the top, but with these lights, what I do is I always set my camera, you could try it on auto, but I set the camera on manual, which you might be able to see that it's set over there on M. So I set the camera on manual. If you're gonna use automatic, you need to set it on the one that kills the flash, which is this one. Has a little no lightning bolt right there. You can't really see it, but anyway. You could try both modes, but manual or automatic without the flash. Oh, the problem with on-camera flash, first and foremost, never use on-camera flash, almost never. Sometimes you can use it as a front fill if you're far away. Like if you're far away from the subject with your phone, you could try the flash just to fill the foreground a little bit. But generally speaking, a light straight at the person, hold on. Look how horrible I look already. But a light straight at the person just looks like a light straight at the person. This is how a camera flash looks. It's so different, and it's because it flattens everything out is the problem. So you don't want to use your on-camera flash. Having the light come from the same place that your camera is terrible for most types of shooting. You want the light to come from the side so you see texture across things and stuff like that. All right, so this camera, if you're gonna use manual, these lights are not super strong. So in order to get more light into your image, I would keep my f-stop at f11. F11, f13, just go there first. That tends to be optimal for most lenses. F11 or F13 tends to give you the optimal image for most lenses. And it'll give you a nice deep depth of field. Depth of field is how much of, from front to back, how much of the image is in focus. So go to F11, F13, which will give you the depth of field to get your whole piece of furniture in focus. And then use the other adjustments to get the rest of the image right. So if it's too dark, you can put your camera on a tripod and slow it down. Slow down the speed of the shutter speed. Slow it way down. So that's where it would be on a tripod. So slow it down and that'll gather more light. These lights that I showed you, they're continuous lights. So the longer you have the shutter open, the more light they gather, right? So basically F11, F13, and then use shutter speed on a tripod to gather more light. Because these lights aren't super strong. So that's how you would make the image overall brighter or darker, right? Is just do it with shutter speed. On a tripod, you can either get, if you're really an experienced photographer, you'll know about like a shutter release, which is a little wire, and it sits over here and you can press the button without shaking the camera. It's a shutter release device. The other thing is to just put the camera on delay and press the button, and then 2 seconds later it shoots. You just don't want the motion of you pressing the button to shake the camera, you know, on a long exposure like we're talking about, where So that's the basic principle. If you don't have a tripod for your camera, you know, obviously this isn't going to work for your camera. You need a real normal tripod. If you don't have that, the other thing you can do is take the ISO and you can raise it up. That's the, it used to be the amount of graininess in the photo. Now with digital, it's not. So you could raise that up to about 800 and still, that makes the image brighter and brighter. Start at 100, that's always the best. ISO, start at 100, but you can go as high as 800 without really hurting image quality. I even, sometimes in a pinch, I've gone to 1200 or whatever for a shot that's gonna be small in a magazine. Yeah, so you can do that to brighten too. If you didn't have a tripod, that would let you go at a faster speed. So for handheld photography, a 60th of a second, you can write that down too, is about as slow as you want to go before you start seeing camera shake. So if you were at f11 for the big size of the aperture, and you were at 1/60th for the speed of the shutter, and it's still too dark, then you would have to go to that ISO to get it to be brighter. So like I said, you've got two tools to make it brighter, because you're going to keep it at f11 or f13. Then you have two tools to make it brighter. Either, and the best one would be, put it on a tripod, slow down the shutter speed down to even a full second or a fifth of a second or a quarter, you know, whatever. If you don't have a tripod, you can raise the ISO and that'll do the same thing. At some point, you get a slightly degraded image, but anyway, that's it. Oh, and the same thing about zoom in with your camera and then move back. That gives you less. The error that we're talking about is parallax. Did you ever try to shoot a table? Did you ever try to shoot a table and you can't get the legs not to be like that? Or like that? Or no matter where you go, the doorways are like that or whatever. That's called parallax error. And so you can get rid of that by moving the camera back and zooming way in. That'll help. It's similar to the iPhone. All right, sorry, that's a lot. That's a lot of stuff to coming at you, but I hope it was helpful. Any questions are all good.
No, thank you. That was a lot of good information.
Phil?
Yeah, what about smaller objects like bowls or toys?
Same principles.
Is that any different?
Nope. Nope. Same principles. I can't see all your hands, so you have to unmute and speak up. Larry's been really quiet, and I don't trust him. I'm just kidding.
Eating lunch.
It's all good. A lot of people are quiet. I just felt like picking on Larry. I don't know why.
Do you ever use a light box?
Could I ask another one?
Oh, hold on. Phil just asked, a different Phil just asked, Phil Scott asked about a light box. So this light I just showed you is a form of a light box, but I know what you mean. You're talking about, it has, hold on one second, let me grab something. Well, Phil, why don't you tell everybody what a light box is, what you mean by a light box? Phil Scott.
Well, yeah, you can make it out of a cardboard box. It's a white cardboard and with diffused sides so that you can put lights on either side.
Yeah.
And put your small object inside that.
Yeah, those are great. Basically it has this diffuser fabric around a couple different sides or all sides. And then you can have light coming in and it kind of just makes a nice soft light in the entire box. Yeah, that can be great. Another thing I do, oh, here's a cool thing I should have brought up from the shop, but I take 2 pieces of foam board or melamine, 3 pieces, and I make a cube, sort of like a, sorry guys, I'm not completely, kind of like a 3-sided, so 3-sided cube, like 1, 2 sides, and then a 3rd side like that. And I just shoot 1 light into the side of that. And all that white stuff that's in the background just kind of diffuses all the light. So you would have 3 pieces like that. And you'd shoot the light from the open side in, and you'd aim your camera in such a way that all you see is the white background in the background, you know? So you'd shoot in there like that. And yeah, that can be another cool way to use a single light and get nice diffuse light in there. Yeah, there's a lot of things. If you start going on YouTube and whatever there's a lot of cool tricks like this. But the principles are always the same. You know, there's a main and a fill, and how you achieve that fill light could be ambient, could be a reflector, could be a second light. You know, the principles are kind of the same. And you generally don't want to have the light coming from the same place the camera is because it just flattens everything else out.
Suppose you have something intermediate between a camera phone and a digital SLR, and you know, like a point and shoot, a top end. Is there a scene mode that you would recommend? I mean, for example, you have choices. If you're a beginning photographer, you might use scene modes.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah.
Is there a best one to choose?
Those modes and how those are calculated and are made on different point and shoot cameras can be really different. So I don't know of any one mode that's a cure-all. The thing with point and shoot cameras is the more manual you can make the controls, the better. So if you don't have manual controls, like where you can adjust ISO, aperture, f-stop, or shutter speed, if you can't control those independently and manually, yes, then you're stuck with whatever scene modes or whatever that point and shoot allows you. Then I would just try different things, and give it a try. Some iPhones now have more of a telephoto lens, which is better to use for furniture than a wide angle lens. So I would go for that, a zoomed in lens. Yeah.
Ace, I've got a question.
Yeah. Looking around.
Besides Photoshop, was there any kind of generic useful software that's commonly available either on a Windows or Mac for simple post-processing, or for the cases where you really have to do something like crop or color balance?
I don't know, because I just use Photoshop, but so I'm sorry about that. I use Photoshop and I use simple controls. These days, the magazines I shoot for, they don't want me to do any image alteration. The goal with lighting is to light it so well that you have a minimum of stuff to do in Photoshop. That's the goal. Anything you can do on site in the camera, and that's what I deliver to my clients. My goal is to have them not have to fuss with it very much. They'll make a little color and contrast correction, but if they have to fuss with it a lot, I'm fired. So I try, but no, sorry, the short answer is no, I don't know, but I know those are out there. Just like on your phone. I mean, your phone has really good controls for simple editing, really good. If you dig around inside your phone, you'll find contrast. One that works great is light and shadows. Don't do it too much, but add a little contrast, lighten some shadows. There's great controls on your phone. Have I bored the living, out of all you guys?
Absolutely not. I am delighted, Asa. Thank you for being with us today. I was wondering, we've all got an assignment now to retake some of the furniture that we've taken photos of before, and make the photos a lot better this time around. Maybe in 3-4 weeks, we could get you back to take a look at, we'll share some of our photos, and you can make some suggestions.
Yeah, we can give some constructive feedback and troubleshooting and say, hey, next time try this or whatever. That would be awesome. Maybe some of you guys will get those limo studio lights and start playing around and try with some ambient light, and just start having fun with what you have. Play around, reflectors, a little bit of melamine or foam board just outside the frame. You can also have it in the frame. You can see it's a pretty wide frame. You can have the reflector showing and then just crop it afterward, So there's that too.
A couple of the bowl photos I used last week in the slide presentation are exactly from Ace's seminar 2 years ago, with those lights and with those techniques.
Did it work out okay?
Well, for me, it was fantastic.
Yeah.
The A/B comparison was enormous. I don't want you to criticize them, but yeah,
I know.
I'm happy with it.
I won't. I promise I won't.
No.
I have a quick question. We have these estate sales, and we try to make pictures of some of the machines and stuff that we have there. Is anything special about taking pictures of woodworking machines? Or
yeah, if you're in a pinch, here's the down and dirty version of this. If there's a light source, have it to the side. Don't have it right in front. Turn off the flash, first of all. Secondly, have the light source a little bit in front and off to the side. The machine will instantly look better. And then just walk backward and zoom in. That's it. That's the down and dirty. Put the light to the side. Even when you're shooting your grandkids for Christmas or whatever, put the light off to the side and they'll look lovely. Hold on. They'll look so charming when your wife is holding your grandkid or whatever.
Okay, thank you.
No problem, you guys. I'm gonna go. I have to knead my bread. It's my timer, my inside timer is going.
Yeah, quit your bragging now, Isa. Go eat your bread.
All right.
Thanks.
We'll see you guys soon. Thanks a lot.
Hey, thank
Take
you.
care.
Thank you.
Bye.
So for those of us remaining, I know that we are close to our hour, and we've been trying to keep these things around an hour, but I hope that you'll stick around for a few minutes. Is Carol still with us?
Yes,